Honorable Makesini.
Thanks, Chairperson.
You've only got time for the one question, sorry.
Okay.
I'm teasing.
Yeah, the chairperson. Thank you, Chair. I just want to check. When they were presenting, I just observed the challenge of the policy gap or legislative gap that we need to assist them so that they can empower the commission. Because if we will have a DG and HODs refusing to come and there's nothing that we can do, it's also upon ourselves as a select committee that we must make laws that assist the commission. Then another issue, the issue of the former, like in Tabanshop in Free State, we used to have beautiful buildings, but if you can go to Tabanchu, Naledisan and whatever, and General, all those buildings are now in the area where the thugs are doing whatever that they want. You can go to Kwakwa, you find the same thing. You can go to Butabelo, it's the same thing. What mechanism, as much as I agree with Honorable Count and the chairperson, the commissioner, when he was presenting the issue of the homelands, we do have this building that are beautiful in the Free State, in those 3 towns areas that I highlighted, and all those buildings now, for example, in Kwakwa, there's a boarding school, the Rasta community now are using for renting for the people. They are owning that building. It's the building of the department. We have an asset of all those homeland areas with those buildings so that you can integrate them in your community. I understand we say there's a challenge of the capacity, you do manual. What another means that we can use the department to make sure they do audit all this building in their respective provinces and submit to the province so that you own up, you know what is as much as we are doing with your own resources, the little resources, but the public works, they must come to hand also to account about their the building in their respective municipality. Yesterday I was in Kudut. One of the people was showing me the house where now the people are using the beautiful house of the public works is not in use, is in town. There are people of the clinic. When you go to Kudu clinic, people who queue for the longest time, while next to the Kudu clinic, we can use that house to help maybe other people with the pharmacy to distribute the medicine. So what are you doing that to make sure, as much as they will face their other building, that we can face it out, but they are building that we can still use at the department, if maybe they can give you a report so that these things are being known. People in every province, they can report about the building that we are using. The issue of the 13% on the administrative, what is the challenge of the department to appoint on the issue of administrative? Because surely it can't be more than 2 years. They've identified the problems, but the problem, they are still sitting at 13%, but we have a challenge. So when they report to you, what is their response on issue to overcome the challenge of 13% on the issue? The issue of the last issue of the Honorable what was raising of the consultant that has been used by the department. I think the money that are spending is too much. Till today, maybe the coming report that is classified for now as the one that we are going to present, maybe you will get a report that will assist us. How are they planning to face out the issue of the consultant? Because we cannot continue to use the consultants while we have people that have been appointed in the department and they are not doing anything. So maybe that report will assist. If it's not assisting, what mechanism that we have put in place to make sure they face out the issue of the consultants. Thank you.
So you just took my question. Thank you, Honorable Makesini. Honorable Teza.
No, progressive questioning from the commissar. You know, Chair, perhaps I'm looking at the nice thing, the very good thing about speaking last is to observe, you know, throughout and see what exactly can we do as honorable members in terms of the legislative gaps that are relating to the challenges that are plaguing the PSC. I think perhaps we would have to look at the Public Service Commission Act, Chair, to give in light of the observations that I've had from the submissions by members to give the PSC binding powers to enforce, because I was looking at their mandate. There's nothing that speaks about enforcement and or even escalating the cases to the public protect, to ensure that there's some level of consequences that are given to enforce implementation of these recommendations and to refer serious cases, and then to impose timelines in terms of ensuring that the departments comply. So we were in Tabazimbi, Chair, on oversight. The situation was deplorable. You wouldn't sit like that, meaning that in the meeting you will be sitting precariously because of the, I don't know whether it's unwillingness to use the budget of the state to actually ensure that the assets are renewed, within the councils, that they are renewed, because we're sitting there. The first oversight that we did is how we were sitting, trying not to fall from those chairs. And the stench that was going on within the Met, showing that it's an old mat, and there's no maintenance, there's no cleaning, and therefore people can't generate healthy, submissions as councillors to actually transform that situation because of the environment in which they find themselves in. The same environment that's outside in terms of the stench that you find within the sanitation, you'd find inside the council, and therefore there can't be healthy engagements or productive ideas that come in council to actually be adopted and be implemented. And therefore I wondered, Chair, whether there is in terms of perhaps there is steps that are geared towards the expansion of the PSC's authority and footprint to hold municipalities and SOEs under the same constitutional values, to give rise to those assets, to ensure that they are quite healthy. The second question, Chair, if I go straight directly to it, how many recommendations issued by you as the PSC between 2020 and 2024 remain unimplemented? Is there perhaps a public available compliance dashboard showing which departments fail to implement your findings, so that the public is quite aware of what is happening, and also there's available metrics in terms of reporting and availing those reports in public? And the second to last, Chair, will relate to the issue of the triple Ps projects. When you talked about it, I just saw a normalization of extortion. When you spoke to it, I just said, no man, there can't be people who are holding the state at ransom. There has to be a dispensation of legislation that is binding towards those contractors to actually hand over everything to the state, because they were given a contract, right? And to what extent have you developed yourself to see these gaps that are happening, of not handing over the intellectual property to the state? Have you identified to ensure that we close that gap in terms of ensuring that there's enforcement with timelines and binding enforcement to ensure that, because otherwise it's normalization. We just report it and say, these people, they don't give us, and there's no one who's following up. The last question, Chair, relates to the funding model. Can you link the capacity the capacity needed for the PSC to in light of the austerity environment that we have now, can you link the capacity needed by you in light of the staff that you have told us, the number of staff across the country, to the environment in which budgets are the order of the day, budget cuts are the order of the day, and therefore will adversely affect the PSC in terms of its constitutional mandate? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Makasini. Honourable Keza, I think for the sake of brevity, I just have one question. Chair, you alluded to this. Professor, you alluded to this, is that there's a devolution of funding for maintenance to departments, but the maintenance still rests with the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, the actual maintenance of the properties. So how do we address that disconnect? How do we fix it? Is there a way of aligning it so that both the maintenance funding and the responsibility of maintenance lies then with Public Works and Infrastructure, or do you devolve it totally so that the maintenance and the funding lies with the user department? So, or is there an answer in between? Thank you very much. And then you're welcome to, Professor, if you want to do your concluding remarks at the end of the answering of these questions, and then we'll continue the rest of the meeting. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. So in order then to be aligned with your proposal, let me request the colleagues, Ms. Domingo Swartz, together with Mr. Litswalo, to deal with the answers quickly. And then I'll then deal with the last part so that we can then be freeing ourselves then, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner, Honourable Chair, Honourable Members. Just in terms of the policy gap, Honourable Members, in terms of where we would need assistance, I think the main finding in terms of the GIAMA is the whole review and amendment that is required. As Mr. Lutwalo indicated, we always say that our policies and our frameworks are on point, but the reality is they're on point in paper, but they're not on point as far as practical implementation is concerned. So technically, are they really as good as they should be? We tend to take a lot of guidance from developed country models and panel beating ourselves into a model that was not even meant for our country. So we need to look at developing countries, what developing countries are doing and how they've done these types of things. We don't, first of all, have the same money like some of these countries. And we are made of different stock. So I think it's very important that we really start looking at the type of models that we adopt as a country, and instead of panel beating the model to fit us, we want to panel beat ourselves to fit the model. So I think that is very important that we need to address. So in terms of GIAMA, we need to include enforceable compliance provisions and penalties. The reality is, even with financial misconduct, there has been a lot of pronouncements made in terms of the consequences for financial misconduct, but show us a case where it was actually done. The President has clearly indicated what should happen. We as Public Service Commission have also got certain guidelines in terms of what needs to happen, but show us one department that stands up and actually makes sure that there's consequences for financial misconduct. We really need to make sure that as a country, we take back our country by holding people accountable. Mandate maintenance plan into lease contracts. Our contract management as a state is very poor, Honourable Members, Honourable Chair. We really need to make sure, and in some departments, there's clear guidelines from National Treasury. So they can be, our departments need to make sure that there is compulsory training of all officials responsible for contract management. And I think it's definitely something that this committee can enforce. We need to make sure that every single person that works in finance has got training on what needs to be in a contract and knows how to manage those contracts. and then also institutionalize independent audits of immovable asset data. And I think there again, this committee can play a very, very big role in terms of doing unannounced inspections at some of these sites. Because the reality, honorable members and honorable chair, is that some of these sites actually prepare for you. Okay, there's things that they can't change, but there are some stuff that they artificially put in place. And when you leave, those things leave with it as well. We had some of the facility managers that told us to our face, if I knew you were coming, I would have been off sick. Yeah. So that's the reality that we need to deal with. I think also, honorable member, in terms of getting input from the clients, DPW recently did a survey with all client departments. I think it's very important that the findings of that survey is presented to this committee. They need to come and present what is the findings and also what are the mitigating plans in place to deal with any risks, any challenges as it relates to the survey, with clear deadlines, clear allocation of funds to make sure that it actually happens. I think that is vital for us to make any progress, because if they are going to use this survey as a Bermuda Triangle where people have shared their experiences, has shared their concerns, has also shared recommendations in terms of suggesting how do we address these challenges, the next time they do a similar survey, nobody's going to put the effort in to provide the required data. So I think with the new minister in place, with the new administration, let's use the data, let's use the experiences, and as most of the members have indicated, address the needs of the clients, but also address the needs of DPWI. I think it's very important that we enable them to do their work better. So DPWI should present to the committee also a detailed report on the use of consultants. We can't give you all the details exactly in terms of what they've used these consultants for. And our suggestion is that let them present, these are the consultants that we are using, these are the areas against the establishment. So they must present their establishment and say, this is the gap that we have in terms of skills, and therefore we have appointed consultants. Because the reality is that in corporate services, for example, I'm not saying this is necessarily now for DPWI because we don't have the detail of who they exactly used, what they exactly used these consultants for. You have a DDG responsible for strategy management and performance monitoring and reporting, but then you have a consultant coming in developing the strategic plan for the department. So what is that DDG doing? And we all know what a DDG in government gets. So you take that money, including what we need to pay a consultant for, and most of the time, that strategic plan is copied and pasted from other good practice strategic plans. So we need to be very vigilant with the usage of consultants and what they deliver. But the question is, do we have the right people asking the right type of questions within our department? I think then also in terms of the triple Ps, there is an office of the Chief Procurement Officer at National Treasury. I think it's very important that they maybe also come to this committee as a suggestion or proposal and present what are the key things that needs to be in a triple P model contract so that the committee is aware of it. And when DPWI comes and report on their performance, the committee is in a position to ask the right type of questions and hold them accountable as far as contract management is concerned, and also in terms of the triple P contracts that we have in place, so that we are proactive also. We know that, as Mr. Lutwalo has indicated, there are some of the triple Ps that is a contract for 5 years, and when it's time for that to expire, for that building to then belong to the state, nobody remembers that it's time. So a simple alerting system that to say, this financial year, we know what's going to happen in the next 2 financial years is very, it's very important. In terms of the funding model for the PAC, we have looked at, as Mr. Lutwalo also said, we know that there's a lot of public service commissions across the country, across the globe, and we've looked at their models. We are very unique in terms of the type of work that we do, in terms of our mandate. Most of the commissions only deal with HR-related stuff. We do not only deal with HR-related stuff. We are much, much broader. We have looked at the AG establishment, and we all know that there's not one department, not one agency, not one entity that does not require the service of the AG. And that's the same with the Public Service Commission. We need to make sure that as government, we make sure that the Public Service Commission has got the same capacity like the AG to do their work more effectively and to cover national, provincial, local, and entities. And as honorable members knows, you have national departments, provincial departments that have got entities under them as well. So it is a mammoth task. Our chairperson always says, never again will a commission like the Zondo Commission ask, where was the PAC?
Chairperson, Mr. Lutwalo, quickly.
Just to add a few things, maybe for you also, Member Makesini, and I think it also respond to what Honorable Gaunda has said. I think both as the committee and the PSC, we need to take advantage of the new developments within the DPWI. As mentioned earlier, there's an asset optimization strategy that was actually approved towards the end of last year. We need to thoroughly engage with the optimization strategy. What does it entail? We know that we are a developmental state. Can we afford to, dispose of all facilities like you mentioned in Kwakwa? Can we afford to do that? Or can that be a facility that is focused on providing social services, as an example, which is not really meant to derive any kind of profit? So we need to really engage with the optimization strategy. I'm aware, and they mentioned last week that they've just appointed also a steering committee for the asset optimization strategy. So we need to look into that. I think through you, Commissioner, will actively engage with the DPW on that and see how we can contribute to that as well, in terms of, like you said, in terms of the former homelands. Another thing to highlight that Domingo Soares also mentioned is the issue of devolution as well. One thing, Commissioner, we need to look into, I think we should also be honest and indicate that facilities that have devolved 100%, like some of the police stations and even the magistrate courts, there are those that have got a ceiling of about $1 million in terms of addressing their own maintenance. They're actually doing very well, most of them that we've looked at. They're actually doing very well because they've devolved 100%. However, the gray area, Honorable Chair, I think you also mentioned, that we need to address is that in the review of the legislation, we need to look at some kind of monitoring mechanism. Even when a department is devolved 100%, what is then the role of DPWI? Because legally, in terms of legislation, they are still the custodian. If anything goes wrong, they are still responsible. So in terms of review of policy, we need to look at that, a monitoring mechanism that is suitable for South Africa, that is suitable for the kind of devolution, and not just devolution, there's also an issue of delegations where you find that a particular end user department is entirely responsible for their electricity. We need to look at that. I remember when we were at one of the facilities, there were issues where the client actually did not even, do some of they were actually they were refurbishing bathrooms. They did not actually use the correct paint. and DPW was actually shocked that this is not the correct paint that should have used. And they've developed to do that. They are allowed to do that, but they're actually not doing it correctly. And it's actually affecting the structural integrity of the building itself. So we need to look at some of those things. In terms of a dashboard, I think that's one of the things we've also communicated. Now I'm talking in terms of the DPWI. I know you were mentioning in terms of the PSC, but also in the terms of the DPWI, we have communicated with them that in terms of the asset register, there has to be a dashboard that shows the management of properties from year to year. That shows the trends in terms of even your illegally occupied buildings. That shows even the buildings that have now been retaken by the state. We are aware also through the GSKIT meeting that took place, I think about 2 weeks ago, that through the asset prioritizing strategy, DPW has been signing some MOUs with municipalities. So that's another thing we need to look at, the MOUs and what are the contents of the MOUs, because that will deal directly with your illegally occupied buildings as well. And lastly, to mention as well, which we've also observed through our inspections. Now, the issue with residential accommodation is that it's mostly entirely under the client, not DPWI, although DPWI still remains the custodian. So often when a tenant is moving out, say an official of the SAPS is moving out of the house, they have to inform DPWI that this particular tenant has moved out, but that is not happening as it's supposed to happen. You find that a tenant moves out and somebody takes over, or even it can even be illegally occupied. There was a situation, I think, in Mpumalanga that we actually were told of where an official moved, but somebody else took over the property and is being vandalized at the moment. So there are those loopholes and lack of enforcement, as Mr. Milkoswat was saying, that we actually need to look into that. Even client departments have to play their role. They've got to play their role of accounting DPWI. If an official moves out of a residential accommodation, that ought to be reported and the right procedures need to be followed. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members. Just in closing, to say that we really appreciate this opportunity because, as Honorable Keza has indicated, that the question of the Public Service Commission bill, that at the point when it gets enacted, that this committee will have to look into whether it will be in a position to address these kinds of issues, because in a sense they are providing a weakness that we cannot afford to continue with. But secondly, the whole notion of trying to understand what is it that the Public Service Commission can put out there to say this is where we have succeeded and this is where we have not, that we can actually provide such information, because we appreciated it. I mean, as indicated, that much as I'm serving in the national office, there was a request that I should support Northwest, and now that they have not had a commissioner for the last 2.5 years, that they asked a very interesting question to say, can you answer this question? Said, by all means, but the problem is the bulk of what we've recommended has not been implemented. So they said, can you just provide us with a report for the last 5 years? And we went ahead and prepared such a report. So which means that even in this instance, we can do precisely that, so that it's not a question of us saying this and there's a question mark from the side of the honorable members. But we provide a report that says that insofar as what we've done over the last cycle of 5 years, this is what has been implemented. But this is what has not been implemented. Because the reality is that in areas where the recommendations of the PSC have not been recommended, or rather implemented, we do sit with a problem. That we need to own up to. I mean, everybody was surprised when we gave an indication about the Tembisa Hospital, that, by the way, the Public Service Commission had provided the recommendations about issues about that hospital, of these sharks that were actually, doing all these kinds of funny things and so on. But the recommendations were not implemented. So when that incident, of the whistleblower, was killed, we said, if at all these recommendations had been implemented, this could have been prevented. And everybody was surprised to say, but where was this report? But the report was with the Department of Health. So these are kinds of issues that we need to provide, to your good selves, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, so that at least there is an understanding about what it is that we are talking about and where these kinds of shortcomings that we are talking about are. But on the question of the of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, if from the side of the committee, you can begin looking into whether the current model is advisable, because they themselves are confessing that it's not helping us because we are the ones who are paying the price. But departments are running amok, with whatever they are doing on their own, so that there can be a clearly defined arrangement that says that if there are delegations, you also take over the following responsibility. But if none, then let the budget reside with the department that is expected to provide maintenance so that you can know who do you hold accountable. Because currently it becomes virtually difficult. So you run to this department, they say, no, but it's DPWI. But for a fact, DPWI doesn't have that responsibility. So these are things that we're picking up, as we interact with them, on the ground, as it were. So these are kinds of issues that we'll also like to bring to your attention, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. Thank you so much.
Professor, thank you so much to you and to Mr. Domingo Swartz and to Mr. Letsoalo. Thank you so much for your participation today. I think the request from the Minister and the Presidency that we postpone today's meeting to another date because they couldn't make it. I'm doing this with that request because this was such an important meeting to have with us today, and I think it was riveting. And the way that you engaged with us, either I'm becoming used to parliamentary speak or you are very straightforward and clear, but I think the latter is more applicable here. Thank you very much for the forthright and clear way that you engaged with us today. It's much appreciated and it was much needed, and I think you've given us as a committee a lot of tools to take forward in our oversight role, and we thank you for that. We're just going to quickly, if you don't mind, while you're packing up your stuff, do a bit of homework and then we'll put it into the meeting. Honourable members, we have the minutes of the meeting of the 23rd of July. They were circulated to you. The minutes are in front of us. Are there any corrections, additions, alterations on those minutes, specifically with regards to attendance? If there's nothing, can I have a proposer for those minutes? Thank you, Honourable Skeerkogel, a seconder. Thank you, Honourable Peter. Those minutes are duly adopted. Honourable members, I wish you strength for today and for tomorrow. And then thank you very much for this term. This will be the last time that we meet as a committee for this term. Enjoy your, I hope you do get a little bit of a break between the constituency work. And we look forward to seeing you in the next term. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair. I hope the Commission remembered all the reports they have to send to us.